webinar, so I'll start the recording now. So I'll be able to send this out to you after the session as well, so you can access it and share it with colleagues if you would like. So just before I crack on, I'll let you know what the plan is for this morning's session. We've got about half an hour. I intend just to give you, first of all, a quick overview of CoolCare, who we are for those of you who don't know us. And then the focus of today's session is all about occupancy and inquiry management and how you can use our system to help you fill those vacancies, especially at this tricky time with occupancy following COVID. So what I'll do is I'll crack on, and I'm going to just start off with a very quick presentation to give you a little bit of background to who we are. So CoolCare are care home management software specialists. We've been making care home management software for about 2 decades now. We come from a really strong heritage of building and operating homes. We're part of the L&T group, so our sister companies include the likes of Ideal Care Homes, as well as L&T Construction and L&T Care Developments, who build and sell homes to other operators. So we're very much care home experts first, and we take all of that knowledge and that years of experience of what it's like running a care home, and we've turned that into really simple and easy to use care home software that helps you to manage all the administrative aspects of running your home. So that takes you from the area we're going to look at a bit today, which is inquiry and occupancy management, through to invoicing of your residents, and then on the staffing side, time and attendance, keeping control of those hours, rostering and compliance around your staffing. So just to kick us off, we had a little look last year at our customers who were using our occupancy and inquiry management system, and took a look at how they were doing, how they were performing with their inquiry management. What we found was actually they were showing really good inquiry management metrics. On average, each operator was getting around 32 inquiries per month for vacancies in their home, and they were achieving conversion rates of above 33%. And when you then looked at those inquiries that had closed either way, actually they were winning over 52% of those. So that's 1 in 2 inquiries were concluding successfully. And the most pleasing part of it was actually the short lead time that we saw. So on average, they were taking an inquiry from initial conversation through to admission in less than 25 days. And that's really important, especially when you've got those vacancies that you need to fill quickly, that you can do so in a short time frame and get a lot more stability over your occupancy, and you can affect change quite quickly. And you can see that in the trends. If you look at the little graph at the top right here, you can see that what our providers were doing was actually, in those known difficult months, late winter, where traditionally it's much harder to get your admissions and your occupancy up, they were prepping for that in September, October time, and really pushing those inquiry levels high, doing lots of marketing. And that was helping them to maintain positive admissions going through into the winter period. And then if we looked at this going into January 2020, sadly just before all the difficulties with occupancy hit, that trend continues up, and we see good admissions going into January as well. And each month our operators were net increasing their occupancy overall. So clearly they were doing something right, and that's what I want to explore today in our short session. So I'm going to spend about 15-20 minutes going through the software, giving some ideas, not just of how the software works, but also some tips about how you could improve your occupancy and the kind of things that you might want to be looking for as you're managing your inquiries through, certainly going into a really important period for boosting your occupancy numbers. What I'll do then is at the end of the session, I'll have a bit of time for some Q&A. So if you've got any questions, just type them in and I'll come to those at the end of the session. And if you'd like a full demo of our software at any point, just drop us an email at info@CoolCare4.co.uk, and it's a completely free demo. We're happy to show you our software in full, or go and have a poke around our website and take a look at what we do in a bit more detail. So let's kick off with our demos. I'm just going to change my screen share so we can take you over to the software. So hopefully you can now see that. Just bear with me a second. Hopefully you can all see my screen. What I'm going to start with today is for those of you who haven't seen CoolCare before, I know some of you might have done, just quickly give you a look and feel of the software so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm going through how you use occupancy and inquiries on CoolCare. So just for experience, I'd already opened up CoolCare and got some tabs open, so it's easy for me to navigate in the webinar. But all I'd have done to get onto CoolCare is go to CoolCare4.com. I'd have had my username and my password, popped those in, and I'm straight on and I'm using the software. And that means that this is an extremely easy to access piece of software. And that's hugely important when you're keeping your eye on occupancy, because for those of you that are looking at those figures, you know you need to be looking at them fairly constantly. You know, you want to make sure that you're hitting those KPIs. If you're expecting an admission to come in, you want to be very quickly and easily able to see whether that admission has happened as you expected, and check up that your inquiries are where you expected them to be. And just to demonstrate that, if I just shrink down this window here, you can see how CoolCare scales to whatever size device you're using. So that means you don't have to have different downloads for different devices, different pieces of equipment. You just need to have internet access. So yes, when we're all allowed back on the beach in the next couple of months, years, hopefully, you can also check your occupancy sitting on a sun lounger if you so wish. Right, okay. So let's just crack on with showing you a bit of the software. So the first thing that a user will see when they log on to CoolCare is their dashboard. And so what I've done today is I set up my dashboards with an occupancy focus. So if I was in charge of occupancy in the business, these are the things that I would want to be looking at really regularly. I can look at this at either home or company or group level. At the moment, I'm looking at this at home level. I'm in Alexander Court. If I just flick over to this second tab here, I've got this open at company level. So if I'm managing a number of different homes, then what I can do is I can view all of that data collated together and see actually where do I need to focus my attention. So if we start off by just having a look at this widget in the top left corner, this is telling me very, very quickly, completely live data, what my occupancy is right now. So I can see I'm at just over 87%. And I can also see across my estate what my break of funding types are like. So quite often we've got some KPIs relating to private percentage, for example. So that's a key thing that you want to keep your eye on. You can see that there. And so each and every day you can see how that is changing and how your beds are filling in line with your business plan. I've also got a couple of other key performance indicators that I need to keep my eye on. So I've got my average fees, my total inquiries, and where my waiting list stands. And this for your inquiry management is really important, because I can see here immediately that given that I've only got 824 beds filled out of 942, my inquiry and my waiting list is not strong enough for me to fill those beds, and certainly not in a short time frame. So I know straight away I need to do some marketing over my business. And I can then just flip this switch here and actually see across the homes where those problems might lie. And I think we can safely say that Greta House is probably a home that I want to go and have a look at. Occupancy there is only at 34.85%. It might be that that's a filling home, so that's what I expect. But still, you can then see very quickly where you've got issues. You can click in and drill into those specific homes. I'll come back to the rest of the dashboard a little bit later on, What I will do next is just show you actually, once you get into managing occupancy, how you can drill into that data a little bit further to help you plan the actions that you need to fill your homes. So I've just navigated into the occupancy management section, and again, I'm actually going to have a look at this, I think, from a group level. So I'm going to go into occupancy management, and what I see straight away is, with a little bit more detail, my occupancy overview. And I'll show you this as well at a home level in a moment. I just think it's helpful for those of you that are managing multiple homes to see actually how you can work out how to target which home first of all. So first thing I've got here is my occupancy overview with a little bit more detail. And the thing that I want to look at most closely here is, where is my occupancy across my group? So actually not much better than it was in my last company, which was CoolCare1. That's the dashboard I was looking at. My private percentage is pretty strong actually, at 67.81%. And that's a theme across our operators. We know that those that use CoolCare do tend to achieve higher than average weekly fees. On average, our operators are getting about £200 more per week for their fees, and have about 8% more private residents than the national average. So keeping a track of that is really helping them to drive the right kind of inquiries and the right kind of occupancy and admissions. But what's really striking me from this is I can see I've got 42 potential discharges. So not only is this live data telling me where I am right now in terms of occupancy in my vacant beds, but also it's giving me a bit of an indicator that I've got more potential discharges coming my way. So when I'm thinking about how many inquiries I need, I should be thinking about what my conversion rate is like. And as we saw earlier, we know it's about 33% for the full pipeline. It's 52% once you bring it to a close. And I need to think about the timings. You know, it's going to take me around 25 days, or it should, in good performance, take me about 25 days to get those residents to be admitted. And I can take that, and straight underneath it, what I can see is my inquiries overview, which gives me a little bit more detail about not only the types of inquiries that I've got coming in and how well progressed they are. So in this instance, I can see that out of the 83 inquiries I've got, 43 of those are private. I've got quite a few on my waiting list. I've only got 12 planned admissions, so I know actually my inquiries here are not that well progressed. The other important thing I can see here is actually how well I'm managing my inquiries. And this is really key. If you're managing occupancy, it's not just the volume of inquiries, but when you get those inquiries through, are you looking after them really well? Are you doing the type of activity that's going to help you to convert those in a short time frame? And what I can see here is I've got quite a high number of overdue tasks. So I'm probably not getting back in touch as quickly as I ought to be with my inquirers. And very concerningly, and I will point out this is demo data, but the average number of days it's taking me to close an inquiry is 522 days. So that is significantly higher than what I know is good performance of 25 days. And that's telling me, right, I have got a little bit of a performance problem in my homes. I'm not getting a lot of inquiries, so I probably need to do a little bit more marketing. But quite honestly, if I'm going to be spending money on marketing, I need to be making sure that my team are managing those inquiries really well and taking the types of activity that they need to do to convert them. And I'll show you how that works in a second. But just whilst we're at a group management level, this is obviously showing us the picture as a whole, as a group. But if I expand this down, I can then see the data for each of the care homes within the group and really drill into which of these homes are the ones that I need to concentrate on. And how am I looking on my private percentage? And I can then go into that home and have a look at where my private percentage is. So I can see here, Caring 3, a very imaginatively named home, has only got a 40% private percentage, which is quite low compared to the rest of the homes in this group. So I would want to be looking at, okay, well, how many private inquiries am I getting? And am I managing my admissions really well to ensure that I'm prioritizing those when I do get vacancies? And is my marketing message good? Or is there actually something in the home that fundamentally means it's putting off these private inquiries? And then ditto on the inquiries overview, I can do exactly the same thing. I can drill in per home and have a little look at how they're doing in terms of the status, but also this second half of the pipeline that I mentioned over here, where it's looking at performance. I can look at that average days to stay open and see where I've got any significant issues. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to jump over to Alexander Court, that original home that I looked at, because I think from an inquiry management perspective, you'd probably zoom straight in and look at an individual home. And I've got some slightly better data on the Alexander Court. Actually, sorry, I've got to go back to home level. Bear with me. Shut that down. Here we go. So Alexander Court. I've got my occupancy and my inquiries overview now just for this care home. I've got my to-do list, which I'll come back to showing you in a moment. But what I'll do first of all is have a look at my inquiries. So I'm going to start off by opening up Bob Johnson here. And I'm going to demonstrate how the way that the software has been designed helps you to actually focus in and spend your time on those inquiries that really need your attention. So for a quick piece of navigation of how the inquiry management section works, as I'm sure you can see, it's very user-friendly. It's got a nice clean layout that helps to encourage those that are inputting inquiries and managing them to follow a logical process and to know where they stand. And quite often with an inquiry, it's not just one person that handles it. You know, it might be that someone at a weekend actually takes a visit, and then the follow-up conversations happen with somebody over the phone who's perhaps in the home or at head office level on a weekday. So it's really important that you've got clear communication, everybody knows what's happened, and that you can show that type of person-centered care to an inquirer that you would show to them when they then move into the home, because quite honestly, that's your biggest selling point. So you should make the most of it during the inquiry management process. So you've got your key milestones here grouped together. These are the kind of the customer journey that your inquiry will go through. They'll go through them in a different order, some will jump specific steps, but this just helps to gather the information together. So you've got the original inquiry, the provision of some marketing literature, quite often a visit. It's very rare that someone comes to live in your home without coming to see it first. The assessment, and then finally the admission. And within each of these areas, you can add another visit. You can have as many visits as you like. You can add in a note. You might want to add in a task. So this might be a follow-up that somebody does. It might be an invite into the home or an update. And once you've created those tasks, you can keep on adding in different actions to show what you've been doing to try and push this inquiry forward. And when those have happened within a specific milestone, the record is then kept and you can go in and have a look and see that detail. But if you want to just have a chronological look of what's happened on the inquiry, you've got the contact log here. And that just stamps every single thing that's happened on the inquiry. And you can filter that to look at anything. So if you've got multiple team members picking up an inquiry, you can quickly go in there and see what's going on. And then a couple of bits at the top, obviously you've got your details about the inquiry themselves, the prospective residents, so you can very quickly see that information. There's a view more button here, that shows you all the information that you captured on the original inquiry. That's hidden away because you often don't need that for that quick snapshot and can be a little bit over-facing. But I'll show you how you complete an inquiry a little later on. And then really importantly, and part of this behavioural driven design is this box at the top right, which is your status bar. This is basically letting you know, am I handling this inquiry well? And as you can see, the system is telling me here, no, you're not handling Bob's inquiry all that well. And I can see exactly why. I have no next task due, and that's why it's showing in red. It would also show in red if I had an overdue task. And the reason it shows red when you haven't got a next task due is how are you looking after an inquiry really well if you're not planning your next contact with them, if you're not engaging proactively or making sure that you're up to date with everything that needs to be done on this inquiry. So all I would need to do to change that out of red is to add in a task. So let's just pop one in for the 21st, and I will assign that to myself. I can pop notes in. And once I've done that, you'll see that the status immediately updates. It's all happy now. The system can see that I've got a plan of action for this inquiry, so it won't flag it as red, because actually, unless Bob gets in touch with me in the meantime, once the 21st of December comes up, the system will be prompting me to undertake this action, so it knows that as long as I do that, I'm up to date with this inquiry. If we then move on to, I'll just show you a couple of other examples so you can get an idea of this. Let's have a look at Mrs. Plotver. So again, we've got another one here that is in red that I need to check what's happening. And this is in red, as you can see that the next task, which is prepare for admission, is well overdue. That should have been done on the 12th of November. And this is where, if you're not keeping on top of things like this, you can quickly end up in a position of perhaps you don't lose the admission, but maybe the admission has to be pushed back because you haven't got all the paperwork in place that you need. If your policy as an operator is that you have to have the contract signed, you have to have payment set up, etc., before an admission, it is super important that you make sure that that is done in good time so that any delay to admission is not caused by your own admin errors or admin oversight. You know, it is too precious to get an inquiry to be waiting a few days for a returned contract. So it's flagging that to me here, and it's been assigned here to my colleague Lee. So as an occupancy manager, I'll probably be getting in touch with Lee and just checking, has he actually done that already? And if not, saying we need to get onto that ASAP because this resident is moving in with us in a couple of weeks and we haven't got the paperwork in place. So as you can see, it's a case of just moving through your inquiries and making sure that you're up to date. And when you've got no red, you know you're all sorted, and it's just prompting you to stay proactive. It's helping you sort those tasks so that you don't have to trawl through 20 inquiries every day. You know, care homes do get a lot of inquiries. There's a lot of things going on. You've got your residents to look after. You've got staff that you've got to manage. You don't want to have to constantly trawl through them. This is just allowing you to do those actions that need your attention and forcing you to plan when you next do them. So it's actually reducing the admin time it takes for you to manage those inquiries, as well as improving your outcomes. And as an individual, I've also got my to-do list. So I can see here any outstanding tasks that I have got personally and just work my way through them. Again, if I was looking at a group or a company level, I would see all of my inquiries across the group or the company if I had specific responsibility. But I can also have a look at this and I can filter it to show other members of the team. So if I want to see how other people are doing on their tasks, I can go in and have a look at that as well. And then the final thing, just going back to that original dashboard, you can see how this is then brought right to your attention when you first log on to the system. So it's reminding you when you log on that you've got some tasks to do, so you can just make your way through them. You don't have to remember to go into the inquiry section and check your tasks. Your tasks are right on your dashboard. So as long as you're working through them, you know that you're up to date. And it will include in here not just those that are overdue, but those that are due soon and those that are due today. So this just becomes your to-do list, essentially. And really importantly, I made brief reference to it earlier, you've got your planned admissions. So that's showing you who was due in, when, and now it enables you to get on top of that really, really quickly. So if you're expecting an admission into the home and it hasn't happened, you do want to check. I've spoken to many operators who have had examples of staff who at the weekend, for example, have admitted a resident, haven't thought to put it on their occupancy management system, and then that resident is missed off not just your occupancy data and your invoicing data, your fire lists. So it's really important, if you're expecting someone to move into the home, you've got the foresight of that, and you can then check that that's happened as you expected. So in this instance, as an occupancy manager, I would be getting in touch with Alexander Court and saying, is Alex in the home yet? If not, why not? And should we be rearranging that admission date? Is Alex actually going to move in with us? Because that's another key part of it. You want to make sure that this data you've got, you can rely on. Can you trust your forecasts? Do you know that the data you've got has integrity, so that when you're planning your occupancy, you know that you're actually going to fill those homes? I have absolutely waxed lyrical, and I'm coming towards the end of time, so I'm going to open it up to questions and answers now. So I can see we've had one question so far, which is, will you do an app at some stage? No, our intention is not to do an app. We don't need to. It's purely delivered through the website, and so even for our staff who staff in the home, your care staff, for example, they have a staff portal, and it's just a different web address that they go to, that they can log in, and they get a different user interface, which gives them information about their working life in the home. So that so far is the only question I've received. Oh, I've got another one. So this is about invoicing, email invoicing. Yes, so we are going to be looking at introducing the ability to email invoices probably in the next quarter of next year. Not next quarter, sorry, the first quarter of next year. When it comes to development, we are constantly developing our software. We release updates roughly every 2 weeks. We've got a full roadmap of development in place. We do keep that flexible, and obviously once you get into development, you're never quite sure what you're going to find, or whether timescales might have to change because priorities change for any reason. But the ability to email invoicing is something that we've been asked for several times, and we know it's of high importance to our customers in the market. So we will be building that in the very near term. Let me have a look at the next one. We've got some. Do you monitor occupancy in real time per room zone in care homes, which basically means in a given time? No, we don't do that. So it's done as a whole across the care home, but you can split it out, as I've mentioned, between funding type. I'm not sure what the next question means, but I will. I'll pick up with you, Seema, after this, and I'll give you a full response on that, and we can go through and demo that aspect. I'm afraid at time. I've just seen a couple more questions coming through. So I'll pick up with Seema after this. If you've got any more, I will come back to you. I'll send you this recording as well. But thank you very much for your time this morning. I hope that's been helpful, and I look forward to chatting to you all very soon, I hope. Take care. Bye.